I'm Brian Bender, and let's queer up the worldview. European LGBTQ activism faces critique over exclusion of Israelis and Jews. An opinion article by Sharon Pardo published in the Jerusalem Post examines a growing rift between Israeli identity and organized European LGBTQ activism, arguing that public spaces once dedicated to universal human rights are increasingly imposing exclusionary political loyalty tests on Jewish and Israeli participants. The commentary contrasts Israel's historic role as a liberal democratic sanctuary for LGBTQ+ individuals in the Middle East with post-October 7th events across European cities such as Amsterdam and Berlin. Pardo details how Jewish organizations and visible Israelis have faced rising suspicion, intimidation, or pressure to repudiate their nationality before being accepted in progressive spaces, addressing the core contradiction of demanding universal equality while applying it selectively. Pardo observes, quote, "When participation is conditioned on repudiating one's nationality or communal ties, inclusion becomes a political loyalty test, a movement that asks society to defend rights without qualification cannot defend those same rights selectively. This is not simply a question of political consistency, it is a moral challenge," end quote. The piece concludes by calling on European civil society leaders to reject political litmus tests, noting that true moral leadership requires protecting unpopular or politically isolated individuals rather than conditioning inclusion on ideological conformity. It's interesting, as a Jewish person, my algorithm gives me a lot of different perspectives, and I want to say that as of right now, I do support the state of Israel. Do I support the government of the state of Israel? Hell to the no. Do I support carpet bombing Gaza? No, I do not. Do I think it's a genocide? If it's not, it's very close.
It is.
If it's not, it's very close. That's all I'm going to say. It's scary close. So all I want to say is my heart hurts for the people in Gaza. I heard that there's a child in the West Bank who has a developmental disability that needs special food, that an Israeli friend of mine has to have friends that travel in and out of Israel. She has to pack it with them because she's contacted pharmacists at very high levels in the government that will not allow this food to get into the West Bank for this little child who is Palestinian, who all he needs is this food in order to prevent neurological disease. This is the only thing he needs. He doesn't need special medication. He just needs this food in order to develop correctly. They will not allow it in through any official channels, so it has to be brought in kind of, on the down low. So my larger point that I want to say about my algorithm is I was listening to a Jewish speaker talk, and as a Jewish person, we internalize the Holocaust. We internalize the pogroms that happened in Russia, in Ukraine, and all throughout Eastern Europe. 2,000 years of exile. You talk about, ancient Babylon, this and that. We have this whole history of wandering through the desert. But what we have to really grapple with is that the Palestinian story is now our story as well. We have been the victims for 2,000 years, but now we are also the perpetrators. And we have to make it very clear that this is now part of our narrative as well. And the sooner that we are able to come to grips with the fact that we can be victims, and it's okay, because we all have our stories of how we've been pushed out of our European countries and how the Mizrahi Jews were pushed out and how the Sephardic Jews were pushed out. I get it. We have our horror stories, and I'm not taking that away from any Jewish person. But also what we don't want to dismiss and what we don't want to bypass is the fact that we as a people are also capable of inflicting pain and torment and hurt on another group as well. I don't know how this is all going to play out. I don't know how the world is going to absorb that. Is it all anti-Semitism to have people hate you for your nationality? No, I don't think so. I think what people are asking is for Jewish people and people that identify as Israeli to take responsibility for the fact that they have to be responsible in the way that they tell their story as Jewish people. That we are no longer the victims in this story. We are now equal players on this field, and we need to come to grips with that, and we need to come to terms. So,
as the other Jew on this table today, I agree with you 100%. I believe that the state of Israel has a right to exist. I think it's important after the years and years of pogroms and everything else that you mentioned. But I don't stand with the government of Israel. I think it's atrocious that we, of all people, having gone through 2,000 years, and especially the Holocaust, which would be the most significant and in one place something happening, for us to then do retribution against the Palestinians. You know, that is not moral, what they did to children. It's not moral what's happening with that special needs child. I mean, they're people. They're not the ones that are firing the guns. They're not the ones that are, burning things down or creating chaos. These are just individuals like in Ukraine that are results of other people's mismanagement, bad political thought. I just think that like you said, that we don't have the right as Jews at this point to do something that horrific. I don't think anybody has the right to do something that horrific. I think what's happening in Ukraine is just as bad in a different way. But we're taking this stand as an Israeli government and Netanyahu that's just making it very hard for all Jews around the world. You know, anti-Semitism has been on the rise for a while, and this doesn't help at all because people are unfortunately lumping people together as everyone's the same.
Well, I mean, I want to echo all of your sentiments. I also have, in the last week, been very irritated by my algorithm. The primary election that just happened here in Florida last week, and the commentary around a longtime LGBTQ advocate in our community who has supported us in every way, shape, or form being attacked by the LGBTQ community, and I'm referring to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I've been disgusted by people who I know from face to face, seeing their commentary, calling her in favor of genocide, making comments about her that I will say border anti-Semitism that are not blatant anti-Semitism. The litmus test thing that we're doing as a LGBTQ or progressive community in general is completely wrong. Debbie Wasserman Schultz can have the same thing saying that you're, and is not a bad person, and she is not a racist, she is not an anti-Semite, she has done, in our own community specifically, of what she's done for LGBTQ community, the commentary that I get mostly in my feed are from LGBTQ people, is disgusting. It's really disgusting. And I think that we're making a huge mistake. I just watched, they were talking about John Ossoff in Georgia and saying like, wow, what a firebrand he's becoming. He's the lead person attacking Trump and in having the most success at it. And it was, I don't know what news show I was watching, and they said, but unfortunately, because someone said, what about 2028? And they said, no Jewish candidate will be able to run in 2028 who doesn't denounce Israel. And I thought, what? We're setting ourselves up for a big, big problem if we're creating our own litmus tests, which are very similar to what's happened on the right, and whether it's rejection of LGBTQ people or rejection of DEI or whatever. You have to be in favor of all of those things to be a Republican-leaning candidate. That's what we're doing on our side, and it's completely wrong, and it's disgusting.
That's very nuanced. Yeah, very good perspective.
We get back and forth in the muddy waters, but there are 2 points that really kind of stuck out to me here. And the one is we're the first to throw each other under the bus and forget that people are doing good things for us, even if they maybe not our candidate of choice in the primary election. But also, to your point, the idea that in a much more simplified terms, the victors write the history, but the history is also of the people that lost. And so it's remembering that those stories that are not the dominant stories also need to be told because they're stories of people who are self-actualized and who are human beings. And that's kind of what I'm taking from this. But I will say, as the German at the table, there's no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.
All hail the